Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to Football Romance on Tour, episode number 5, and as promised, I've made it out of Madrid and I've come to Spain's second city, the Catalan capital of Barcelona. Now this is my second visit here, absolutely loved it the first time, so I'm really excited to be back. One of the things that I first noticed about Barcelona when I stepped out of the train was just how many people there are speaking in English. It has a really international feel, and in fact I think most of them speak better English than I do. Now I know plenty of you will probably have been here before, so I'll try and find a few things that I can tell you about it that perhaps you don't know. Starting with the fact that at the last count there were 8 million visitors per year, which makes it the third most visited city in Europe. And also the fact that the origins of Barcelona are kind of in dispute. Generally accepted that it was founded in the 3rd century BC, but a legend goes that Hercules actually discovered Barcelona 400 years before Rome, so that would make it pretty old. So during the Art Nouveau era, a whole host of unusual looking buildings were constructed in Barcelona, many of which were designed by Gaudí. You've got La Pedrera and Casa Batlló, which are both in the city centre, on the same street in fact, the Passeig de Gràcia. But of course the most well known of all is the Sagrada Familia, which despite construction starting in 1882 is not actually finished. If you know anything about Spanish culture, then that probably shouldn't come as a big surprise. They're never too keen on getting things done quickly. Now a lot of people don't know that Gaudí was not actually the first architect commissioned to design the Sagrada Familia. There was actually a guy called Francesc de Villar who started doing it, but in fact after a year he resigned and handed it over to Gaudí, and since then it's been his project. So if you want to go inside, it can cost anything between 15 to 29 euros. You've got panoramic views from the top if you decide to take the most expensive ticket, which is, as I said, it's 29 euros. Definitely worth checking out. Absolutely, from outside it's absolutely beautiful, and it's one of many UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the city. Of course, Barcelona is also known for its beaches, a Scotsman's nemesis, which is why I've decided not to go down there to shoot this video. There are 7 beaches in total, although none of them were actually used for leisure before 1992. The seaside was actually dominated by industry back in the day, but this all changed when the Olympic Games were held here, as I said, in 1992. So 2 of the existing beaches were improved and 5 new artificial beaches were created. Perhaps the best known of them is La Barceloneta, which has been highly rated by various different kind of travel and tourism websites and magazines, etc. There are also over 60 municipal parks in Barcelona, the largest of which is Montjuic. There you will find the Palau Nacional, which is an impressive building overlooking the city. There's also Parc Güell, that is maybe the most well known of all of them in fact, and it was also designed by Gaudí and is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. If you want to enter Parc Güell, you will need to buy a ticket in advance. You can do so on the website. I think it costs maybe 8 euros. Now, until today I would have told you that the best views of the city were in fact from Parc Güell, but I've since found out otherwise. There is a hill on the other side of the city called Turró de la Rovira, where you will find Los Búnkeres del Carmel. Basically there were bunkers positioned up high when the Civil War was taking place, and you can take it from me, the views from there are absolutely brilliant, so definitely check that out. It's something that doesn't necessarily come in a lot of the tourist guides. I think it's something that's maybe becoming a little bit more popular. I've no idea why it's not been in the tourist guides before now, to be honest with you. At the risk of sounding like a fatty after my last video, I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about Catalan food. Now, first of all, breakfast time, not only at breakfast time, but it's quite common at breakfast time. You have got pa amb tomàquets, is in Catalan, which is basically bread with tomato. It doesn't sound glamorous at all, but I can tell you that Catalans and Spanish people in general, in fact, are absolutely mad for it. So, toasted bread, a bit of tomato on top, olive oil, garlic and salt. They absolutely love it. We've got something called butifarra, which is kind of like chorizo. It's an uncured spiced sausage. Something that's very typically Catalan, you might not find in a lot of other places, are calçots, which are basically large sweet spring onions. They are roasted over hot coals and then dipped in a spicy sauce. It's always quite funny to see people eating these. They kind of look like the guys in the circus who try to swallow swords. And finally, last but not least, you've got fideuà, which is similar to paella. I was kind of tempted to talk about paella, but I think the people I know from Valencia would probably never forgive me if I said paella was more typical from Barcelona, so I'll leave that for a trip to Valencia in the future. So fideuà is kind of similar to paella, but instead of using rice, They use vermicelli, I think it's vermicelli, it's not vermicelli, it's Italian, not Spanish. Vermicelli noodles. So there's lots of different types of this, as you can imagine, with meat, with fish, with seafood as well. So if you're coming to Barcelona, get in touch. I'll be happy to recommend a couple of good restaurants that I've been to. Now, as I'm in Barcelona, you'd probably expect me to head along to the new camp to catch Barça in action. But I'm interested not only in the big teams, I'm interested in everybody in the top flight of the three leagues that I'm covering. So I've instead opted to come and see Espanyol take on Sporting Gijon. Also, the fact that Barça weren't playing at home this weekend kind of influenced the decision as well. So neither team have won La Liga, and I don't expect either of them to win La Liga anytime soon. Espanyol have won a few Copa del Reys in their time, with their most recent triumph coming back in 2006. Now, they appointed Quique Sanchez Flores as the manager. You remember him from Atletico Madrid and Watford. He took over in the summer, and they were tipped to do pretty well by a lot of pundits, but they started off pretty dreadfully. They won only one of their first nine La Liga matches, but they've turned it around brilliantly recently. They're unbeaten in their last 8 games with 3 wins and 5 draws. And their defence has been really solid in the last couple of months. So I think they've kept 5 clean sheets in a row and 7 clean sheets in the last 8 matches, 4 of which have ended 0-0. So hopefully that won't be the case tonight. They're 12th in the league overall, mainly because they've drawn a whole host of games, but only Barcelona and Real Madrid have actually lost fewer, so Espanyol have only actually lost 3 times in the league. Sporting only just avoided relegation last season. They finished 17th, and they're again expected to struggle this time around under Abelardo, who was an uncompromising defender for Barcelona back in the 1990s. So they're currently sitting in 18th place in the last relegation place. They've taken 12 points from the first 14 La Liga matches this season. A 3-1 win at home to Osasuna last weekend ended a run of 10 league matches without a win, and that included 2 5-0 thrashings at hands of Barça and Atletico. So Sporting's last away league victory came all the way back in January at Valencia, who will actually replace Sporting in the relegation zone if the Asturians pick up at least a point tonight. So maybe Gineve wasn't that bad after all. Now, that was Sporting's only victory in their last 22 away league matches. So, given the form Espanyol are in, I'm kind of expecting a home win tonight. Let's get inside and see how it all pans out. So, I said that 4 of Espanyol's last 8 games have been goalless. This could be 5 out of 9. It's 0-0 at half time. They've come closest to opening the scoring, although Sporting had the upper hand earlier on. They're playing with 3 men at the back to defend Felipe Caicedo, and I'm not sure you necessarily need 3 men to defend him. But they're playing a 3-man central defence, and Sergio Alvarez has also been dropping very deep as well. So they've had good options at the back for keeping possession, but they've not really had much going forward as soon as getting to the Espanyol half. So I think most Sporting's opportunities really have come as a result of some mistakes in defence by Espanyol. Some of the mistakes have been ridiculous. One of them should have really have let it go. They should have worked out left to Moy Gomez, I think it was. It was way down the other end of the field, so I'm not sure. He was in acres of space, and he instead passed it to Carlos Carmona. He was in much less space, and his shot was deflected wide, so that was a big chance missed. So Caicedo, he's put himself about, as you would expect. He almost bulldozed his way through once, but just got blocked off at the last minute. But, you know, a one direct ball up to him, landed at the feet of Gerard Moreno, and he's been in pretty good form lately, and he very nearly found a net. He absolutely fizzed one just wide of the post. And he had one earlier on where a good cross came in the box from Leo Baptistao, and he kind of hung back from the defenders, put it over the bar. So those have been the 2 best chances for Espanyol and the best chances in the game, really. So we'll see if they can make more of them in the second half. Off the field, there's not a massive crowd, but I think the fans are in pretty good spirits, especially the kind of ultras that they call them behind the goal, just near where we're sitting. I heard the Will Grigg song. I hadn't heard that, I think, since the Euros. I thought everybody had forgotten about it. I'd almost forgotten about it as well. So there was an Espanyol version of that. And even more bizarrely, the Flintstones theme song, they seem to have a version of that as well. I should have done a bit more research. I don't know the words to it. So I'll try and find out that if it comes up again in the second half. So there were no Flintstones in the second half, but there were 3 goals, and somehow I managed to miss 2 of them. as I had to leave the stadium a little bit early to make sure I got the train back to Madrid in time. So of course they just had to wait until the 89th minute to score twice, didn't they? I think obviously we left at 1-0 and Espanyol scored the second goal before Sporting reduced the deficit, so the 2 goals at the end didn't alter the complexion of the match too much. Didn't hear the Will Griggs song either, but I did hear plenty of lauding for Espanyol goalkeeper Diego Lopez, who has set a new club record of 586 minutes without conceding a goal. Now, to be fair, he didn't have that much to do, but he was a safe pair of hands throughout. I think Sporting were kind of forced to open up after they conceded the first goal. That was a header from Felipe Caicedo from a free kick. The Sporting keeper, Ivan Cuellar, didn't really cover himself in glory. He came out when he probably shouldn't have done, and Caicedo just kind of nicked it into the net. So Sporting ditched their back 3 or back 5, whichever way you want to look at it, but they didn't really create very much. I think they only had one chance that Lopez was forced to save from dodgy chop, who scored a brilliant free kick at the end, by the way. So check that out. So I think, yes, Sporting, they really struggle to score goals on the road. I think only Villarreal have scored fewer goals away from home this season. That's a bit weird considering Villarreal are 4th in the table. So I think, yeah, Leo Baptistao scored the second goal for Espanyol, and I think that kind of sums up a lot of their attacking play. It was kind of very direct, very fast. They looked to move the ball really quickly when they were in the opposition half. And they play with a lot of intensity, which I think sometimes they try to do things a bit too much of a rush, and I think that's some of the slip-ups in the first half that I mentioned at half-time are partly as a result of that. As you can probably tell from the videos and the photos, the stadium wasn't particularly full. It holds just over 40,000, and there were about 20,000 in attendance, so I think it was just under half full. Now, the average attendances for Espanyol have actually gone down every single year since they moved into the stadium in 2009, although this year so far has been an exception. They're up slightly. They're sitting at just under 20,000, which is basically the same as what was at the game on Sunday. The stadium is officially called the RCDE Stadium, RCDE being the acronym of the club name. This is not very original, is it? It used to be called Estadi Cornellà El Prat, with Cornellà and El Prat being 2 municipalities which are located just outside Barcelona, and the stadium is found at the border of the two. Now, it doesn't take long to get there from the city centre. It's about a 10-minute train ride from Barcelona's main train station to Cornellà, and once you get there you need to walk for another 10 or 15 minutes, so it's not too long, it's pretty accessible. The stadium, as you can probably tell, is very modern. You've got the lights display outside, which looks great at night time, and it's actually run mostly on renewable energy. Now, when I booked tickets, I didn't actually realise that parts of the stadium were uncovered, and it just so happened that the part I was in, from one of the corners, was uncovered. Now, it wasn't really too much of a problem because I was in Barcelona, not in Aberdeen, but in December it does get a little bit chilly, especially late at night. So that's it for Football Romance on tour for 2016. We'll be back with a bang in the new year. If you've got any suggestions about places to visit or games to go to, I'll be more than happy to listen to them, and I'll do my best to get along there. I've already got a couple of ideas for the next video, so we'll hopefully get something sorted out in the next few days. So remember, check Football Romance out on all the usual places, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a fantastic New Year. See you all in 2017.